I, 27F. Don't think I'm in love with my husband, 27M, of 5 months. My husband and I have been together for 4 years and recently had a small wedding in November. Buckle up, kids, I think I wrote too much. Our relationship has always been less than desirable. We bicker a lot, like every couple. But our relationship has always entirely been about him needing his space because he's an introvert. He hates leaving the house, he gets mad when I have friends over. But relationships are about give and take. I ask him to take walks with me, or go for a drink at a bar, or just getting ice cream and cruising, but he always refuses. He's worked weird, long hours for the entirety of our relationship. We also lived in cities about 90 miles from each other. So he always chalked up all of the bickering, the lack of sex, the emotional distance up to his weird work hours and him being tired. He painted this picture that our relationship would magically be fixed if I sold my house and moved to his city. I was extremely hesitant. I was so proud of my house and the roots I was putting down at the time, but I did it anyway. He pressured me to buy a house with him in the new city, and I stupidly did it. This all to say, nothing about our relationship improved after the move. Everything stayed the same. We got engaged, because I knew I had nowhere else to go and I thought I was in love. We are now 5 months into our marriage and I don't love him. I have love for him as a companion, but I tell him constantly that we're more roommates than a couple. He doesn't understand. He thinks our relationship is great. I don't understand how I can make him understand. I literally asked him for a divorce last week, which really upset him. But he still hasn't done anything to show me that he'll make an effort. I have no romantic feelings for him. I gave up so much so he could keep the job that he wanted. I've begun to realize that our entire relationship has been about what he wanted and very little about what I need. I am not in love with him. I think constantly about how I can leave, and planning it. Do I stay and just suck it up? Is it possible that the relationship problems are literally all on my end? I have severe anxiety, so maybe I just need to readjust my meds. Or do I just cut and go? Marriage counseling is completely off the table, because he refuses to go and acknowledge our marriage has any problems. Too long did not read. My husband thinks that our relationship is great. I've felt stuck for years, married him anyway because I thought I was in love. Realized recently I have no romantic feelings for him anymore. And he's made it clear he doesn't want to change. Do I stay and just suck it up? You've already spent close to 5 years in a relationship that doesn't make you truly happy. Why would you want to waste another 5 years on it? Potentially having kids, and hence, making it even harder to leave? I have severe anxiety, so maybe I just need to readjust my meds. Or do I just cut and go? Marriage counseling is completely off the table, because he refuses to go and acknowledge our marriage has any problems. Break up, and work on yourself in individual counseling. Figure out why your self-esteem is so low. No, you're 27. You can't choose to stay in a miserable relationship for next 50-60 years. He's going to continue to get what he wants with little regard to your own feelings. It sounds like you gave up so much to be with him and he won't even consider why you're unhappy? This is a mirror of my fears when I got married, and here we are 11 years later, with a child, and nothing has changed. I wish I could rewind time and pick myself. It would have been better to be alone, even a single mother with 0 roots. Because that crappy feeling just grew with time until I felt imprisoned by my own choices. Don't be me if you can help it. With respect, you've made a series of very shitty choices. Probably best to start making some good ones, no? Can't for the life of me fathom why you married this person, but I don't think it's reasonable to live the rest of your life unhappy. This is exactly why my parents divorced lol. Even if you give him an ultimatum and he smartens up, do you really want to be in a relationship where your partner has to be forced to meet your needs? If you're unhappy, spare your future children. If you plan on having them, cut the cord now and find someone who wants to make you happy. You feel stuck and your needs aren't being met, and you have tried to communicate these things to him. I would say you should get that divorce and leave. He doesn't care that the relationship isn't good for you as long as it's what he wants, and isn't willing to listen to you. Also, you have no romantic feelings for him. That's not anxiety, it's what you feel. Absolutely the last thing you should do is stay and suck it up. You're only 27. GTFO of that marriage and rebuild a life you're proud of. Check with your local laws to see if you are eligible for an annulment. I have heard that if the marriage is still new, this is the way to go. Divorces are usually for marriages that are longer than 1 year. Again, look into the local laws, and don't drag your feet. Your window of opportunity is closing, and the longer the draws out, the more complicated, and costly, it will be. You deserve more from a relationship and you are not a bad person if you want more out of this relationship. Consider asking yourself the following. Which causes you more pain? Leaving now or staying in this relationship with the knowledge that it might never improve? You are the only one who can decide what is best for you. Good luck, op. I hope you find the happiness that you deserve. You are legally and financially entangled. You've asked for a divorce and told him he's essentially your roommate. Have you got your legal ducks in a row? You may want to get advice on whether or not it would harm you in a divorce if you move out. Perhaps start with a legal separation agreement to lay out the ground rules. If you absolutely see no chance of him engaging more as a partner, you need to show him you're serious and take the steps to get your life back. Don't be cruel or tempted to blast him with your pent-up frustration. If he hasn't figured it out in the time you've been together, he likely won't. Or can't, more likely. You're allowed to leave a relationship that doesn't make you happy. Why spend more time on a man you feel no love for? He's told you loud and clear he has no intention of changing who he is. Cut your losses, get out and enjoy your life. I am wondering how the hell you met in the first place. He must have emerged from his shell long enough to do some wooing. Not to belabor the obvious, but you two do not seem to fit together. Determining this is what dating, living together and getting engaged is all about, yet you seem to have failed at every step to exit out the fire escape. Why? Is this a limited, negative view of your relationship? There must have been some logic to your getting married, but to answer your question, no. Go see a lawyer. Married less than 1 year and you may very well be able to get an annulment. Please, just leave. You made mistake before when you abandoned everything for him and left everything you had behind, and now you are thinking you should double down on it and stay unhappy? It is very apparent there is no happy future for your relationship. You are not happy and he makes no effort to even acknowledge it, so how could it improve? If you don't leave, you are doing huge disservice to yourself and you will always regret it. Is it possible that the relationship problems are literally all on my end? No. It just means he's ignoring the problems, and it sounds like he is. If a relationship makes you say, "Do I stay and just suck it up?" you are wasting valuable time. You have one life on this amazing planet, with near endless possibilities. Is this really how you want to spend the next 50 years, just because it's how you've spent the last 5? Oh man, all of this has sucked so much, but I'm already 5 years in, might as well stay put. It'll probably get better. Sure, I've told myself that 100 times and it never did, but this time? This time will be different. Because reasons. If he won't go to counseling, won't collaborate with you, won't admit that there's anything to work on, then you shouldn't stay. I'm all for trying to make things work so you can walk away with a clear conscience, but it sounds like you're already there. It's much better to leave now before you get more entangled. If he were to realize that you're serious and change his ways, you can always get remarried. But you can't get wasted time back. Of course he doesn't see anything wrong with your relationship. You've catered to all of his whims and allowed him to be a subpar partner. That is not to say that this is your fault. I think we have all been that person, at one point or another, to fall in love with someone's imagined potential rather than their reality. But it does sound to me like you've reached your breaking point. It has been 5 months. Divorce will only get harder over time as your finances become more enmeshed. Time means nothing in a relationship if there is no love within it. Do not stay and suck it up just because you've invested time and money into the relationship. You have to do what's right for you, and if that means a divorce, so be it. You need to have a clear, blunt conversation with your husband though. It seems he doesn't understand or might think you're bluffing. When love dies down, it can hurt, but I promise it'll be a lot better after you're separated. Dude, you're 27. Do you really want to settle at 27? You've got another, 50 years ahead of you. Do you want to spend it with someone that you have to frequently accommodate with no reciprocation in return? I'm turning 28 tomorrow, and I wouldn't leave. Don't dwell on what you gave up as if that's some reason to stay. Don't dwell on all the time you've been together as if that's a reason to stay either. This shit ain't working and he's not helping. Fear of losing something is an incredible motivator, but don't try to manipulate him into changing. He won't. Just go, and if he comes back into your life a changed man, then great. But don't expect it. After 5 years of what you've described, imagine how free you'll feel when you're no longer beholden to a roommate that doesn't respect you. I hate when people say we bicker or fight a lot, like every couple. I have been with my husband for 8 years and we never fight. Not once. We talk about things, listen to each other to understand, not to respond, and then go from there. You don't need to argue to show passion or whatever. Just learn to understand where you are coming from, and others are as well. Before doing anything, I always say to myself, how would I feel if husband did this? There is no reason to stay in an unhappy relationship or to get him to see things your way. You told him how you feel, he disagrees. Neither of you is wrong, just incompatible. Move out, get divorced, and find someone who makes you love life. It's time to end the relationship. You made mistakes. Marrying someone you didn't really have a good relationship with, moving cities, incompatible introvert, extrovert, etc. Learn from those mistakes moving forward. Don't waste more of your life in an unhappy relationship. You made a poor decision by marrying him. Don't make another poor decision by staying. We bicker a lot, like every couple. This just isn't true. I've felt stuck for years, married him anyway because I thought I was in love. You know you don't love him. It's cruel to act like this is going anywhere. I'm a huge introvert and homebody, but if I had a wife or girlfriend, I would definitely go out for walks with her and occasionally go out to a bar or movie or eating with her. I would be very welcoming of her having friends over. I do not believe his only issue is being an introvert. He sounds narcissistic in that he is trying to not only control the overall situation but also you as a person. Kind of sounds like you're in a relationship with a secret narcissist. You've tried everything he said would fix the relationship and it hasn't fixed the relationship. You've got nothing left to try, and clearly he's not going to try anything under any circumstances. You asked him for a divorce and he's still not willing to admit that the relationship has problems? A relationship where only one of the people in it is happy is not a healthy one. It's time to leave. You are 100% in the right here. You shouldn't have to put up with being miserable and not having enough companionship either from him or being allowed friends. You should leave. Read this again and ask yourself if you want to do this for 25 years before finally realizing you aren't compatible. Rip the Band-Aid off now, or live in resentment. Marriage counseling is completely off the table, because he refuses to go and acknowledge our marriage has any problems. And #X200B. Think this tells you all you need to know. How can you salvage something your husband doesn't believe needs to be salvaged? You've been swindled. That's all there is to it. He brings nothing to the table and somehow thinks he deserves to have a marriage. I also don't think his behavior could be blamed on being an introvert. Being one myself, I don't refuse to leave the house and refuse to take walks. I actually take walks almost every day. Being a hermit is not the same as being an introvert. Leave now. And don't ever listen to someone who says your relationship will be magically fixed if you sacrifice everything you have to be with them. If the relationship is about one person, then you're dating a project, not a partner. It's not healthy if one is not willing to compromise. And it takes years. We bicker a lot, like every couple. That's as far as I got. Couples in healthy relationships rarely, if ever, bicker. I can tell you from experience that there is no need for petty bickering when both parties are effectively communicating with each other and are receptive to meeting each other's needs. If he refuses to meet you in the middle, then this is not the right relationship for you. Don't stay. It would be awful if you got pregnant. Then you are stuck and the poor child would suffer. It's best to call it a mistake and move on in your life and seek your happiness. It's okay. You don't have kids. Now is the time. You are young and have plenty of time to meet the one for you. I'm so sorry. I'd leave and make sure to get your half of the house money. Phew. We have only one short life, it's too valuable to waste it. You are young, so if he doesn't understand, drop him and live life on your own terms. Take this marriage and divorce as a lesson that you are also important and you should please someone with the cost of your own comfort. Compromises should be made in a way that both partners are satisfied. Good relationships start off with give and take and require compromise and adjustments. Then after a while the person you love starts to become more important to you than yourself. As making them happy is what makes you happy. Unfortunately, it seems like what makes your partner happy is whatever he wants. In some cases, when you have exactly the same desires, wants, values, it can be workable. But as you say you're completely different and want different things, cut your losses and find someone who has the same values as you. Remember, interests and values are not the same. You don't have to like the same things. You just have to have compatible values like being kind, considerate and giving. One thing that always amazes me, after reading so many sad stories like this one, it never gets better after you get married or have kids. Actually, I would almost rent to say that it always gets worse. As many before said, luckily you have no kids, so this is a plus. Relationships are give and take and compromises. Yours seem to be only one way and no compromises. I hope things get better. Good luck. It's a hard thing to do, trust me. I just split from my fiancé of 5 years. If you're not in love with him, then you need to part. You have to be happy yourself. You can't sacrifice your happiness for his. He is clearly blind to what is going on. Sucking it up is going to do nothing for you. Save yourself a bigger heartache later. I understand why you are hesitant to leave him. You've already invested so much time, money and love in this relationship that it really feels like you are losing. The fact is, you are not compatible and this is your wake-up call. You are still young and can start over. Yes, it will take time. Yes, it will be difficult. But he is not going to change, he really isn't. So what do you choose? Do you stay another 10 years and you'll have invested even more, maybe kids? Or cut your losses now and live a life that is going to make you happy? In my opinion, this marriage is a non-starter. The problem is not his introversion but that he's all take and no give. He wants to live his life as if he's not married and have somebody else's needs to think about. Then let him either do exactly that or be lucky enough to find somebody with the exact same needs as him. You already sunk 4 years into this. Don't sink anymore. Make your own plans. Move out one day, then serve him papers. Say no more about this to him. File for divorce ago before kids possibly come into play. He isn't willing to work on it, so there's no reason to stay. A marriage takes 2 people working together. It'll never work if only one person is trying. My dear, I hope you will leave before you have children with this man. You are so young. You have your whole life ahead of you. You have so much potential. It sounds like you will be happier and better off single than in an unhappy relationship where you are settling. Leaving now will be hard, but leaving in a few years will harder, and staying forever will be hardest. Get out now. Get to know yourself. Love yourself. Become the best version of yourself. Do all the things you have always wanted to do. Never settle. Relationships do have compromises, but each person should be compromising equally, and it sounds like you have been the giver. He needs you but doesn't appreciate you. Give yourself the love and appreciation he doesn't and leave him. Sunk cost fallacy. Get out. Don't keep making the same mistake just because it took you so long to make it. Create a future for yourself that you're proud of, not just sticking it out, for the sake of not getting a divorce. We bicker a lot, like every couple. Just in to say that not every couple bickers. I am going to assume that your parents bickered a lot, so you're using them as a model, and that you don't otherwise have experience in relationships where that wasn't the case. I have 2 recommendations for you, pre-divorce. One is red. You can't make him go to counseling, but you can get smart on these kinds of relationship dynamics and trying to understand them. If that doesn't work, feel free to give him an ultimatum to go to counseling, and at least work on himself, your relationship. Whether the issues are from your end or not, it doesn't sound like a good relationship. And if things aren't being worked on, then letting go would be best for both sides. I think this is above Reddit's pay grade. Go see a marriage counselor. You can go to a marriage counselor by yourself first, and if you decide to try to make the relationship work, I think you can convince him to go with you in time. Why the fuck did you marry him then? Dude, you spent 5 years sucking it up. Don't waste another moment of your life like this. You're not in love anymore, so why bother trying to make it work? It sounds like you're barely amicable roommates now. How long until that turns into resentment? If couples counseling is out, and you think your unhappiness is anxiety-related, though for 5 years? Not sure that's fair to yourself? Then maybe seeing a personal therapist can help you sort your thoughts out. It doesn't sound like he's ever put you first, so it's time to figure out what you want. You sound financially independent and secure, so you certainly don't need him to lean on. He cannot force you to stay, and you don't owe him any more of your time, care, consideration, commitment, etc.